My name is Gary McFarlane. I'm a sex and love addiction specialist working with clients all over the world, particularly online using things like Skype and VC. I thought that it might be useful to just talk a little bit about sex addiction. It has become a lot more problematic, and in particularly, I think we are seeing an increase in the number of people that have become addicts as a result of use of the internet, and particularly pornography viewing. It has been used as a coping strategy by many people, and I think it's really useful to think about the fact that maybe it is that the brain has created a coping strategy to help people get through life when otherwise they may have turned to even greater and worse problematic behaviors. That's not, of course, to endorse the behaviors, it's just a recognition that the brain does not like pain and things like stress and anxiety, and will find strategies to help an individual cope with life's difficulties. Let me give to you a definition of sex addiction which I work with my clients. It is a pattern of sexual behaviors which preoccupy your thoughts and are out of control. You cannot stay stopped for a sustainable period or consistently, and it has harmful consequences, and the behaviors serve a function in your life. It's this latter statement which is really an important part of the criteria, and which makes it an addiction as opposed to a love of sex. It is the fact that the behaviors serve a function. If you fulfill that criteria, the definition that I've given to you, and all facets of it, then it may be there is something of a prevalence of sex addiction in your life that you might want to get some help with. Let's look at what is a compulsion. A compulsion as distinct from an addiction. Compulsion or compulsivity is a behavior aimed at bringing you back to a baseline feeling state. I often make use of a spirit level. If you know the spirit levels which many builders use for making sure the wall is level, I think about the spirit level very much like our bodies. Our brain wants all parts of our functioning to be in homeostasis, to be level, if you think about a seesaw. And so when one part of our functioning is out of synchronization, then we snatch off a form of behavior in order to make us feel better, to bring us back into right functioning. And so a compulsive behavior is snatching off a form of behavior to bring us back into a right baseline feeling state. For example, if somebody has a migraine, a severe headache, we may reach out for ibuprofen or paracetamol, and they are aimed at bringing us back into right functioning. An addiction, however, is a behavior which not only wants to bring us back to a baseline feeling state, but it wants to go beyond that baseline. It wants to project us to a place of much more intense excitement, really. As we apply it to sex addiction, it's an intense sexual pleasure and excitement. It's a state of feeling intense erotic pleasure. And so somebody with a sex addiction is no longer just doing a compulsive behavior to move them from being out of sorts to coming back to a baseline. They experience what it's like to go higher up with a more intense, pleasurable feeling. And once habit has kicked in, habit is something which we start to term a neural pathway. When there is a repeated pattern of behavior, then a neural pathway is formed, which is what causes us not really to have to think about a behavior that we reach to, but the brain, the body automatically turns to that coping strategy and just does it without us giving too much thought to it. And so, having experienced the repetitive behaviors of a compulsion and then having gone higher to a more intense behavior, that intensity is what the brain becomes addicted to. And because with that intensity comes the secretion of biochemicals, such things as oxytocin, adrenaline, dopamine, all of those things are secreted into the pleasurable side of the brain. And in essence, it is those mood-altering, pleasurable biochemicals which becomes the fix which the brain is trying to repeat in order to make us escape reality. In essence, one enters a false intimacy. Reality is left behind. It is very much more the chase rather than the outcomes of the chase. In other words, you could say that it is the chase to find the ultimate image on the next page rather than the actual orgasm, which is the best part. Now, whether it is a compulsion or an addiction, because they are both inappropriate, more negative outcome, mood altering behaviors, they will have negative impacts, and therefore they are behaviors which probably need some help from a skilled individual, or indeed some of the self-help tools that are out there to seek to bring the behaviors into a place of sobriety. We use the same term as we do with alcohol addiction.